First of all, Penny, tell me a little bit about how'd you find out about BrainTap?
I own a MagnaWave, so I saw it at one of MagnaCon's conventions, I think 2 years ago. And I didn't buy one then, but I thought a lot about it. And I was an original owner of a RelaxMate from years ago and from Sheely. So I kind of thought, well, this looks really interesting. So
Yeah,
decided
we
to.
used to when we created the very first portable light and sound machine, but Paul Sheely's equipment, we used to sell that as well. We had one called the MC Square back then, and
Oh,
we
really?
sold a lot of his equipment. It's good. It just won't work with our sessions. I tried to get him to work with me on that one, but we couldn't get the price right, and I wanted to make sure it was affordable. So it's
Yeah.
good. They're all good, the light and sound. So this year at MagnaWave, I'll be there.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm
I
actually going to give
I didn't get to sign up because they closed it early and only had a certain number of participants because of COVID.
Oh, wow.
So I'll do it virtually, but
Yeah, I lived in Louisville for a few years, and so off Taylorsville Road. So I'm looking forward to going back there and
great.
seeing
That was
it.
a lot of fun the year I went. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your experience with BrainTap.
So far, I've got fibromyalgia and chronic pain, and I've obviously got some weight loss issues I wanted to work on, so it kind of motivated me toward getting one. And I've really enjoyed working with it. What I have found was that in using it regularly, I do notice better sleep. My mind is still busy sometimes. A couple times during the night, I've had to get up and go get the machine and put it on and listen to try to fall back to sleep. Because I do have a busy little mind sometimes when I'm trying to process something. So I use it for that. I worked with the chronic pain. I tried it with the weight loss. Unfortunately, I kind of had a really weird reaction, and I contacted, I believe I got a hold of Heidi, and I said, my problem was years ago I had hypnosis for weight loss. And I was the only one in the group who actually gained weight instead of losing weight. So I don't know if it got some little rebel in my head or what, or if I'm wired wrong, something's off. But I experienced it the first time I used the BrainTap with the weight loss programs, that all I wanted to do was eat more sugar. So that was one major question I had for you, is how can I work with that to reverse whatever's crosswired in my head to make me want to go the other way? So
we do have sessions that are specifically for getting off sugar. There's
Right.
also a really good book I recommend where they talk about BrainTap during the book. It's called Get Off Your Sugar.
Okay.
A friend of mine named Daryl Joffrey, he wrote the book. He's
Okay.
Dr. Daryl Joffrey. It's a really good book. And there might be some physical things you can do to offset it. Like
Okay. Great.
he talks about different dietary things you can do.
Okay.
Also, one of the things we recommend with the BrainTap is we have a whole 26-week series on nutrition.
Okay.
And even if you know a lot
Right.
about nutrition, because I know if you're into PMF, that you probably have
Right.
gone into this field. But what we do is each week we focus on the reason it's there for health. And our whole thing is it might be something, the sugar consumption could be caused by something else. Just to give you an example, the stress of one event is the same as eating a candy bar.
Okay.
Because your liver itself produces that much sugar. So if you're stressed about it, let's say about losing weight, so we need to lower that yet. We've had people through our weight loss program, which we are featured in People magazine for helping people take half their weight off and keep it off for more than 5 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So but what we showed them was we didn't really focus on weight loss. We focused on muscle and getting your metabolism. One of the things that we now have, you're not going to be at MagnaCon, but we're going to have it there. We have a piece of equipment that can actually measure your metabolism.
Really?
Yeah. And what we can show is basically every time you do a BrainTap session, you are increasing your metabolism. So maybe at first, don't even focus on the weight loss. Go through the nutritional classes that are more for health.
Okay.
And then by tuning up what you already know, that might get you to be thinking. And it's not about weight loss. It's more about honoring your body and whatever your weight is right for you. What we really need to do is get you producing more muscle, right? So that at rest you're burning more fat and things like that.
That makes sense. Sure.
There's also one of the things we work with because we do a lot with what's called now biohacking. They didn't have that back in the 80s when I started, but now that's what they're calling it. There's actually some it's called B3 bands. And as bizarre as this takes, and if we need to, you can contact Heidi again, because she's now my assistant.
Okay.
So you can, and tell her that I talked to you about it. We can get you a link to.
Okay.
And what they do is these bands. For instance, for myself, I converted over 40 pounds of fat to muscle into 20 pounds of muscle during COVID because I found out about these. It doesn't take high intensity workouts. You can do low intensity workouts. So part of it is working with the BrainTap and getting the muscle to be built, getting the stress levels down. But these are bands you put on and you can just walk. You can just use your own weight. And there's one influencer who does a lot of shows on the internet. Her name is Lily McDermott. And I just did another interview with her on her show, and she's showing off her muscles. She's an older lady, and she says, I've never had muscles before, but now I do. So as we get older, unfortunately, we convert our muscle into fat, and we need to stop that process. So it could be the foods that you're eating are triggering. Yeah. So, with the stress eating. So what we can do is if we get the body, when you're doing BrainTap, and what we find is if you do the workout, then you do BrainTap, you've actually triggered an internal response that produces glucagon in the system. Okay. Glucagon tells the body to tap into fat stores in the body for energy.
Great.
And what happens with people in weight loss is a lot of times, even though you're eating the right foods, your body's in what's called metabolic lock.
Right.
And that metabolic lock happens because of insulin. Right. So we need to lower that insulin level. And that happens, you can't simultaneously create glucagon and insulin at the same time. Oh. So it's an on and off system. So if we can get you to do even just 10 minutes a day of this, some people just put it on and go for a walk or do their gardening. I mean, that's how easy it is. And I recommend that. We're doing a lot now with people who aren't able to be as mobile, like in our dementia studies and our Alzheimer's studies. And what we're showing is that if we can add that in, then that's just one more piece, because the brain needs exercise. And you're getting that exercise too with your MagnaWave. I mean, your PMF is doing some of that too. Right. So, I mean, there's things happening there. So, I mean, that's one thing you can do. And then, so tell me a little bit more about what's going on with you, and we'll see where else we can go.
Well, obviously hormonal, because I'm obviously through menopause, but I know a lot of the weight stuff is harder to get off after menopause. Yeah. So that's an issue as well, working to calm that. And I've noticed, it was kind of funny because I listened to your presentation on the Slimming Summit. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that you said something about how sometimes when you're not in your calm space, you tend to be more irritable. And I've been meditating for a year and a month now. The last 6 months have been mostly the BrainTap. And I've noticed that when I'm noticing the chaos in my life more that's always been there, and I was used to it, and now I don't like it. So I'm irritable about that, and I don't like my response. So I don't know if I just need more BrainTap or if I just need to get away from things in my life that are super stressful.
Yeah, well, part of what will happen is part of every session, you'll notice at the end where I have you do some what we call future pacing, where you start thinking about how you're going to apply that knowledge. Yes. To start visualizing that mess getting straightened up.
Okay.
And there's an old saying, it says time heals everything, but time really doesn't do it. We do it. But what happens is there's a saying too, you get what you rehearse in life, not what you intend. That's one of the things I like to say. So if you rehearse it in your mind, you don't have to do it physically yet, but what will happen is those little things that you can change. It's kind of like the Serenity Prayer. Right. You know, when people, there's certain things you just have to deal with. I mean, or you make arrangements to not be in those experiences, you know what I mean? So, but what happens is when you're getting clear about that. And the nice thing about your mind is as you get clear about that and you say, hey, this is what I'm going to tolerate, this is what I'm going to do, then you'll make peace with it. Because too many times when you're a pleaser, which I kind of feel like maybe you are, yes. when you're
got it.
Yeah. So when you're a pleaser, you forget to please yourself. Yeah. And so even though you don't think it's bothering you, your subconscious, which is running 95% of the programs, you know, this is what Bruce Lipton says in his Biology of Belief, that 95% of the change happens without your awareness because it's your biological system. But we have to consciously kind of prepare ourselves for that. And it's going to take a while to unwind. For instance, they now know the nervous system. This is it, whether you're using PMF, brain tap, or whatever to adjust the nervous system. They say it takes 7 to 9 months to do that. Now, of course, things like MagnaWave and brain tap, we're trying to quicken that, right? We're trying to make it quicker. But depending upon how fixed your nervous system is, your nervous system is pennies, right? You have your own, it's been that way for years. That's the way it's always been. It's kind of like driving. If you've ever had to drive to work a certain way, and then on the weekend, you were going somewhere and you had to turn left to go where you wanted to go, but you always turn right to go to work, but then you turned right to go to work and you go, oh shoot, I'm turning the wrong way. That's what happens because we kind of go unconscious, right? Exactly. As you become more aware, what we're doing with brain tap is making you more aware of things. This sometimes happens with people as far as food even. They don't realize now all the things they were doing unconsciously. So it just takes some time, but I wouldn't focus on that. I would focus on de-stressing. You'll lose a lot of weight that way.
Okay.
One of my favorite articles that's picked up all over is how stress is more fattening than chocolate. So we can work on that. So I think and then if you do the morning sessions, I don't know if you're doing those. First thing in the morning, what happens is we know the brain, if your brain isn't regulated correctly because of stress and anxiety, first thing in the morning is one of the prime times to just get your brain right. And they're only 10 minutes. It's our AM programs. So you put those on, and there's 10 of them. So you rotate through them. And if you did that for the next 10 weeks, just every morning doing that, you'll probably form. Now there's other sessions too, but I'm just talking about the AM programs first to go through those. And then in the middle of the day, do you do it at the same time you're doing your MagnaWave, or?
Not always. No. I don't always have the MagnaWave out because my husband doesn't like it set up in the living room. So I have to drag it back and forth. And, I work on the dogs more than I work on myself. And, again, people pleaser, I help everybody before myself. So I don't always do the MagnaWave, and I probably should. I've finally got a chair in another room where he probably won't let me leave it set up there either, but whatever. Anyway, I do the brain tap around 6:00 every night. I sometimes get another session in during the day, but I usually at least get one.
Yeah. So if you even get up 10 minutes earlier, that session in the morning is equivalent to 3 hours of sleep.
Oh, nice.
When we've done our studies. So even though you're waking up 10 minutes early, all you got to do is reach over, put it on, and do your session, and you'll have more energy in the morning. And that's going to, what that does, we want to trigger that glucagon production, put the cortisol. When you think of cortisol, the analogy I like to tell people, and most people know about this, the salmon, when they swim upstream in Alaska and then they lay their eggs, well, 2 hours later they die because they retire and expire. We don't want that to happen to anybody, right? But what happens is we work all day, we're super tired. By the time you do it at 6:00, that might be too late to get the maximum benefit from it.
Okay.
Sometimes when I travel even, I will do a 20-minute session when I land, and then I'll do a 10-minute session right afterwards because it just doesn't quite get me where I want to go because I've just traveled across the country or whatever was going on. So that's another thing you can do. But if you can do it at least once or twice a week with your PMF, you're going to see a big difference. I mean, you got a piece of equipment there that most people I talk to would love to have. For those who don't know what PMF is, I'll just tell them so if they're listening. But it's a pulse electronic magnetic frequencies. So they're different frequencies. We use frequencies with the brain tap, but this uses different frequencies that actually, or they're similar frequencies, but we use sound and light. They're using actually electrical stimulus, and it actually thins out the blood. So it makes the blood flow better and has a great healing effect if people have pain and discomfort. So are you a dealer too, Penny?
I haven't sold any yet. I just got it for myself pretty much.
All right, I was going to say, well, they can contact Brain Tap, and we can set them up with somebody or have them contact MagnaWave because we believe in that product. We think it's great.
For sure.
So within the Brain Tap also, so we have the 3 different times you can listen. You're listening to the one in the evening, which is fine. That's usually a reboot session.
Okay.
If also at night, even without the lights, because maybe your husband or whatever doesn't like the lights in the room when you're doing it, you could do an evening session at night. You just, when you're ready to go to sleep, put in your earbuds have your phone on airplane mode and do a sleep session without the light. You can do it with the light, of course, but if you have to do it kind of incognito, then that would be a way to do it. And what happens is our ears, just so you understand, just like the frequencies of the PMF, what happens, we are listening to 25,000 pieces of information at any one moment in time. So what our brain does, though, is it filters out all of that information. So Penny, you and I were at a dinner together at a restaurant, and somebody 3 tables over said something about brain tap. Our ears would perk up. We wouldn't hear anything else in that conversation, but we'd hear that. Or they might say PMF, or they might say magnowave. Whatever it is, we hear those words because it's part of our reticular activating system.
Okay.
So we're hearing everything in that room, but we can't make sense out of it all because it's too much for our conscious mind to understand. So what happens is we have novel sounds, which are we call it the neural connect technology, where the brain listens to those sounds and will actually follow it into these different brainwaves. So the light is really good, but it works pretty well, especially after you've done the headset. It almost works as well. If you haven't used the headset, the app does work. I mean, we know that within 6 weeks, if you're using it 3 times a day, you get kind of the same effect as using the lights once. Wow. So, you can do it at night and get a really deep sleep. Sleep is when you want to lose all your weight. If we can get you to go to sleep at night without eating 2 to 3 hours before going to bed, then listen to a session right then. We've shown in our studies that, and this was with women 55, 65 years old. When we did our dementia study, we were also measuring their metabolism, that brain tap can speed up the metabolism by up to 34%. So without doing any exercise, you just put it on, because when the nervous system is functioning correctly, it's like you're a kid again. You become youthful as well. We can measure you against people your age. If you were present, we could do that.
So would you listen to a weight loss one at bedtime or a sleep one?
Sleep one.
Okay.
You can even just listen to the music ones if you wanted to.
Okay.
Go through the sleeps maybe once just to go through it or something.
Right.
Okay. Then you can listen to the music ones, or if you like the audio ones, you can listen to those. We're always adding new ones as well.
Oh, good.
Those are our most popular on BrainTap. I mean,
the Whole Tones ones were quite nice. I have some of their stuff I play during the daytime too. And one for the dogs as well. So.
Yeah, we love Michael. Those are really good, and we mixed them with the algorithm, so we could get them to even go deeper into sleep. So what we did with his is we put our lights to it. Yeah. Okay,
I was going to say, have you ever thought of trying like the? I know Bose makes a sleep bud that you can wear so that they're noise canceling, and then you can sleep with them. Have you ever thought about hooking up with them to just do your app with their?
Yeah, we have a couple different partnerships coming out with different earphone manufacturers that are doing it, that are giving free bundles. Also, we have a couple of these relaxing chair manufacturers that are building BrainTap right into their chairs now.
Oh, wow.
To help people de-stress while they're doing their massages in their chairs. So, yeah, you'll be seeing that come out since you're on the mailing list. You'll see it.
Oh, great. That sounds exciting. Wow. I've noticed too, when I have the headset on with the lights in the ears, I tend to get really warm all over. Is that normal just because you're doing the meridians, or?
Yeah, for you're able to run energy. So that might mean that you're very sensitive as far as energy goes. So it's really important for you also to get out and ground yourself. Do you get outside barefoot any time during the day? Because sometimes people who are really sensitive, we tend to hold a charge. Our body should be at 0, like voltage. But if you came to our booth again, if you were somewhere, we could measure you. And most people are running around with 3 or 4 volts in their body. What that means, it's like having electrical spark. When you plug something in, you see that electrical spark, but that's happening throughout your whole body. So it's causing a dysfunction. So you get outside and ground. We recommend in the morning, just get outside, walk for a few minutes, get some sunlight, and at least ground yourself. We also work a lot with Clint Oper with grounding or earthing. If you've not seen the Earthing movie, go on YouTube and watch. Just type in Clint Oper, O-B-E-R, and earthing, and it's a free movie online. He's the one who kind of he teaches you some things about that, and it seems simple, but once people start doing that, their inflammation goes down. Studies show inflammation go down about 25%. I know that's one of the big things of PMF as well.
Wow, interesting. So do you have any recommendations for people who clench their teeth? Would it just be the stress tapes, or do you have something specific for TMJ? Because I didn't see anything.
We don't have anything specific. We should put something together. We get a lot of reports of people doing that. That's what the sessions are right before bed. And what I tell people, we've all been in front of the TV and we were a little tired. We started watching like a World War II movie, and then we wake up in our dreams and we're in World War II. That's because our subconscious takes whatever we were just listening to before sleep and incorporates it into our dreams.
Okay.
That's why it's so important to start listening to new information that's positive right before bed.
Okay.
And then you'll start putting that into there. And then the clenching of the teeth, that's the unconscious thing I was talking about. So when you start to progressively relax, think of your body like a capacitor. A capacitor electronic circuit holds a charge, and then it finds a way to discharge it like at a certain point. So we all have a discharge point, right? If we were driving together down the highway or down let's say a country road, and it's summertime, the windows are down, we're having a great conversation, you're driving, Penny, and you're driving the speed limit, everything's cool, but then all of a sudden behind us, a police car comes racing up with its lights on and siren, what would happen?
I panic
Right,
inside.
but I told you you're doing the speed limit, everything's great.
I know, but I still panic.
Right. So that's what happens to our body, right? Now, if we pull over and the policeman goes around us, what happens? Yeah, right?
I saw it. Oh my God, it wasn't for me.
Yeah, you start thinking you got away with something and you didn't do anything in the first place, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but let's say that they did pull you over and you have to hold on to all that, right? You don't blow up on the police officer because they're just doing their job. If maybe your taillight was out or something like that. So they pull you over, but if it inconveniences you and you get home and somebody lesser than you shows up and irritates you, usually that's when you blow up, right? Yeah, or on somebody that's going to love you and take you back, right? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to continue to reduce or eliminate the stress in our bodies. And that's where the BrainTap comes in at night, and why 90% of our users will use it right before bed. And they'll do the light portion usually during the day. Some won't use the lights at night. It just depends on your propensity. Some people do it. I mean, they find it's fine. But if you're in a room with somebody else and they don't want you to doing it, then you got to do it with just the earbuds.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I really enjoyed, I was having some trouble with some decision making that was keeping me awake. And I looked on the app and it's like, oh, there's some for decision making. So I was playing those for a week and my decision came so easy after that. So I absolutely love the variation of topics that you have. And I'm glad to hear you're adding all the time. That's wonderful, because I've enjoyed the spirituality ones and connecting with your intuition. I did notice you mentioned on the Slimming Summit, you had some for essential oils, but I didn't find those.
Well, if you can contact us, and we have an Excel spreadsheet where doTERRA, one of our doTERRA reps, that sold me on the doTERRA products, because we know that they really affect the brain. Like frankincense is really good, and a few others, and we also like lavender, like when we're doing sessions. And so what she did was she went through the whole doTERRA line and matched them up. And then we had another, I don't know if you call them oilologist or whatever they are. Her name is Deborah Zeff, Dr. Deborah Zeff, and she has her own oil line. So hers are just, you'd have to match it up. But if you have doTERRA, we have the specific blends that go with specific sessions. And then and eventually our plan is to put that into the app. So if people, they could click on, hey, if you use essential oils like Young Living Oil or the others, you can click a button and then it'll populate in to tell you which oils to use with it. But really, I mean, most of the practitioners we know are pretty intuitive about it and really get it going well.
Interesting. Now with the MagnaWave, my unit has like a 10-minute timer on it. So if I'm doing one of the apps for MagnaWave, do I just keep rehitting the timer and do it again?
Oh, because MagnaWave is 30 minutes?
It could be 20 minutes or something. I think most of your apps were like 20 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark.
What's going off in 10 minutes?
Oh, my MagnaWave.
Oh, the
Has
Magna.
a 10
Yeah,
minute
just put it on, just click it on again, or when you're done with your MagnaWave session, just finish it up with the BrainTap session.
Okay.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just ordered one of the MagnaWaves that has the vibration in it as well.
Oh.
So I haven't got that one yet. So we'll see what happens. Because I just had a little one, one of the little pad ones.
Yeah.
And I wanted one of the bigger ones for my home. So I just ordered that. So I didn't know that it was limited like that.
Yeah. Some of the machines are, they have a timer on them and they're up at 10 minutes. So I don't know, maybe the bigger, mine is a big unit, but it's the digital unit. It's not the other one. So it's hard to say, if they're all like that. I think they all have timers, but I don't know if they all shut off at 10 minutes. I found that interesting. I've already had a vibroacoustic sound table. Mm-hmm. So when I saw the Oasis and the BrainTap at the same time, I'm like, oh man, but I already, I don't need to replace what I already have, sort of, kind of. So, but the BrainTap,
you could use your own table. We have a lot of people doing that. All you do is get a splitter. While you're doing your BrainTap, you could do the sound table at the same. We have a lot of people. We have probably 14 different sound tables out there that people use BrainTap with.
Oh,
we
really?
just made one convenient, and then MagnaWave started producing it.
Oh, wow.
So MagnaWave actually makes that table now for
that
we sell.
Nice. Good to know. Good to know.
Usually it's just clinics that buy it because it's pretty expensive. The average user doesn't usually do that.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Now, is there an order you should do tapes in or sessions in?
Well, you've been doing it enough now that it doesn't matter. But when somebody first starts, we do recommend the first 21 days, if they can, to, and we're correcting this actually in the app. When people first start, we have a get started now. And then it goes away after 21 days. But basically, if people want instruction, it's there and shows them. But now you can pretty much listen to whatever. Your brain will be flexible enough with it. It's kind of like learning to dance. Now you know how to dance. Yeah. You can just pick the song you want to listen to, and your brain will follow the algorithm.
Well, and I really like the fact that, when I was meditating with the one teacher that I worked with for the first 6 months, I would fall asleep every single night. I would fall asleep during her meditations, but I don't do that when I'm wearing the BrainTap. And you were saying it was the lights that keep your front of your brain focused so that you don't fall asleep, which I find very interesting.
And you'll find too that your meditations, you'll become more present during those meditations because you're teaching your brain not to go to sleep during those altered states. Because people that have gone to like the symphony or something like that, I always look around and go, man, these people paid $200 to take a nap because they're all passed out because they're not used to going to alpha. Because that music actually causes the synchronizing brain waves and puts you into an alpha state. Wow. And of course, they'll pay $200 next month too to go have their great nap as well because they're not able to get it at home.
That's fascinating. I was interested too, and you were talking a little bit before about the amino acids, that they were doing with IV drips. When I was listening to the Slimming Summit, I'm like, wow, now that's interesting because I know I'm probably not getting enough protein. And you were saying also that there's some sessions for getting adequate protein. So they're probably in the nutrition packet. Okay.
Yeah. Part of what we found was, for the listeners so they understand, is when your body's in low-level chronic stress or fight or flight, as people call it, but it's not quite fight or flight. It's just there. It's kind of like a nervousness. The gut never quite disengages, so you're not digesting appropriately. So then you have undigested food moving through, and that causes something called leaky gut. And we know if you have a leaky gut, you have a leaky brain. So we don't want that. Okay. So what we found when we did the test, they were able to, through a couple different tests, show the nutrients going in. And as long as they were relaxed, like using the BrainTap during their IV drip, then they were absorbing 30% more of the nutrients.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, they they did the amino acids were for addiction and brain recovery, and it could be addiction to foods or whatever. People would pay for this recovery center in Provo, Utah to do it. Now they're all over the country called Fusion Health. And so they're using it. So people will do that. But we have an IV clinic here. I'm trying to get BrainTap into. My wife and I went there. We just brought our own BrainTaps and did it at the same time. now the owner's going, what's that? Now we're talking to them about putting BrainTap into their clinic. So
wow, amazing. Oh, that's great that's really great to know. Because I learned just a lot listening to you on that Slimming Summit as well the other day. And I was like, okay, this is great. I need to go back through the weight loss programs. You said there were like 54 of them, and then the nutrition's 26. So I thought, well, that's a good place to start, because you were mentioning the Saboteurs, fat burning program. And I'm like, okay, I'm missing some things, but I kind of, like I said, I panicked when I noticed that I just wanted to eat more sugar after I was listening to it the first few times. And Heidi said, keep listening, you'll get through it. But I kind of got off in a tangent on the spiritual side of things and the pain side of things and decision making.
Every session is going to help your metabolism.
Okay.
If you have a specific thing that you're doing, then you might want to just do a search for that on the app.
Okay.
Like the 54 sessions are actually from my franchise. I used to have a weight loss franchise.
Right.
And those were what we called the emotional roadblocks that people would face while they were losing weight, because we would do counseling, right? And if they had an issue, we'd put them in the chair and have them listen to it wasn't BrainTap at the time because we didn't have it then. It was called the Pathfinder. But when they would do that, we would have them do that. Then we'd come back and we would coach them through it, but it would get their subconscious in line with the changes they wanted to make. Like we have one called turning diet saboteurs into diet supporters. We have one called weekend weight loss. We have one called overcoming sugar and chocolate addiction. There's, like I said, there's 54 of them, and they're usually based on what a member had come back and said, hey, can you help me with this? And go, yeah, we can, but we don't have a session for that. So let's create it. So if you come up with something that we don't have a solution for, then we'll make something for it. So.
Sounds good. I heard you were saying that people's own voice sometimes really is something they pay attention to, which I found very interesting as well. Now, would you normally listen to, like, say you were in a weight loss one, would you listen to that first tape like over and over again, or just keep moving down the line and come back? Or
because you own it at the clinics, they listen to one version every week. So it's a 54-week program. But since you own it, for neuroplasticity sakes, every time listen to another one. And then when you get to the 54, you just start the 54 again, because then your brain's not going to remember what it heard, 54 days ago. Sure. And you're going to still get that neuroplastic change.
Okay. That sounds great. Perfect. Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you and learn some more, because I just find what you do so fascinating, and learning more about it is always helpful, because if you ever want to share it with somebody else, you want to know what you're talking about. So
yeah, no, this is great. You're going to help a lot of people. Well, do you have any other questions or concerns?
No, I just, like I say, I've kind of started all the meditation stuff more on the spiritual side, and I know you have several, programs for that, which I've enjoyed, the Mountaintop Retreat and stuff. And so I'm really, really doing that. And one's trusting your intuition and all of that. Those are great. So for lowering blood pressure, basically just the stress ones would be.
There's actually one for that. The first in the medical series.
Okay.
It's lowering blood pressure. We have a specific session for that.
Okay.
You'll see that it's, I think it's MM01 or something like that. Okay.
And I noticed you actually
MF01.
Yeah, you have stuff for thyroid issues and all kinds of things in there that I haven't found yet as I'm scrolling looking for other things, and then I go, oh wow, what's that one?
Yeah, it's a doctors group, because we have 2,300 clinics across America. Okay. So usually the doctors are never satisfied. They always come up with something I don't have. So we work with them. Usually they're partnered with an expert, like a thyroid expert, or like with the medical series, we worked with St. Francis Hospital in Indianapolis to create that series. So people, while they're going through surgeries, could listen to the BrainTap while they're recovering.
Wow. That's fascinating. Pretty neat. Yeah, I think you've got almost all my questions answered here. So I I'm good. I mean, I'm
All right.
excited to have learned more and want to really get to work on some of this, how it's going to make a difference by doing the morning routine and adding some other things in. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate you being on and asking me the questions, and keep brain tapping. Let us know how you're doing, and remember, reach out if you need any help with
Okay.
anything. We'll help you out. So
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much, Patrick. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.